Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele. How you doing? Welcome to a brand spanking new week. And happy Labor Day to you. And of course, well, those in the US. And happy new month. I want to say greetings and salutations to everyone locked in right now, those across the globe. One Harmony Radio, top of the morning to you guys over there in the UK. King Genius, blessed Earth Date. Those on the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com. Big ups to you. Those locked in on WGLRO, home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show. Donnie is actually on vacation for the remainder of this month. All the best to him. Much needed, bro, much needed. Big ups to those on PEMGTV.com. Welcome. And of course, those who are just joining us for the very first time, welcome to the family. Reggae Global Radio. Yeah, let me tell you. You're in for a treat at Reggae Global Radio. It's all about the reggae music from all over the world. Although sometimes I play other stuff. Don't hold it against me. Kicking it off with one of those other stuff tonight. The track is called Monster. A song written to talk about wrongful incarceration. Presented by Paul Powlin. I want to say big ups to Mr. General Manager. Blessings, Marlon. Host of Real Rockers. You can catch Marlon on Reggae Global Radio. Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 to 10 p.m. live and in living color. Say welcome to those locked in on Facebook Live. Remember, it's only temporary. go to the website kevinstew.com and get locked in from early. I want to say thank you to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in the moment is priceless. Pulse can take care of everything you see right here on kevinstew.com and so much more. They can host your website, they can create a website for you, they can provide streaming services on your website and streaming services off your live event. For those of you who want to take it a step further and you want your own internet broadcasting television station, Pulse Media can do that for you too. Give them a call, 754-999-6020, or reach out to them on pulsemg.com. I want to say thanks to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. Althea is a licensed massage therapist operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, brings her table, has her oils. She comes COVID-free and she'd like to leave that way. Give her a call, 954-655-9000, or email her at thealater@att.net. All she asks, outside of that you pay her and that you're COVID-free, is that you get off her table when she's done and go sleep somewhere else. Special thanks to Reggae Global Entertainment, also one of our segment sponsors. They can act as your booking agents, take care of your tour management, handle your copyrights, your publishing, your trademarks, your business registrations, your music productions, your marketing and promotions, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034, or visit them online at reggaeglobalentertainment.com. And big ups to GMAC Music Solutions. GMAC Music Solutions brings your event to life, providing light, stage, and sound production services, musical equipment, audio engineers, DJs, bands, musicians, singers, PA systems. Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC, or visit them online, gmacmusicsolutions.com. That's 754-307-4622. You can also do your online shopping at gmacmusicsolutions.com. Hello, Jan Jan. Like I said, don't get too comfortable on Facebook Live. In about another 20 minutes, it'll be gone. So go on over, kevinstew.com. Or if you're locked in on Reggae Global Radio, you're good to go. The track is called Monster. Artist goes by the name Paul Paulin. Yeah, so it's like Paul and Paul again, just an I-N at the end. Paul Paulin. On the phone with me, a man who has had the opportunity to use the words "free me" for slightly different reasons, but once in the very same position that our good friend Jeremy Busby, you might remember him from a show a few months ago, talking about his incarceration, wrongful incarceration and that. Tonight, we have as our guest someone who met Jeremy while incarcerated and has developed quite the relationship with him. And since being out of the prison system has been quite the advocate for Jeremy and for criminal justice reform. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, or this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world, I introduce to you Al- I almost twisted his name, which is kind of easy to do, but yet still hard to do. I welcome Alim Rahim to the broadcast. Welcome, Alim.
Thank you, DJ Kevin C. It's an honor and an extreme pleasure to be in the stew pot here with you guys tonight. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time out to join us and to share with us. You know, you have there's so much that you can share. There is your story, there is Jeremy's story. There are other stories that you came across along the way, quite similar to Jeremy's. And there's the whole institution of criminal justice reform. And I want to start off with getting everyone to know who you are, who Alim Rahim is. So you can start anywhere.
Okay. My life has been a whirlwind, I must say that at first. But we can get into actually when a person actually commits a crime or have some sort of addiction, right? It's seldom that he's questioned about what he has done to cause him to be in that disposition in their life.
Right.
And in my case, in 1978, August 23rd, I lost my daughter in a house fire. And that sort of took a toll on me.
Yeah.
And actually, my wife was stronger than I was. She went to the church, and I went to hanging out with losers, and got my first 2-year sentence. And I did 2 years on it. I mean, actually, I did 6 months on it, and I got out. But instead of me making the transition while I was in there, I came right back out and got right back amongst those same sort of losers that I had been amongst before I went the first time. And that led to another prison sentence of 15 years, which I did 5 on it.
Okay.
And what I was trying to escape from is being irresponsible. That by not actually being a father or a husband, just totally being irresponsible and didn't have no fear of God. And actually, I blame God for taking my daughter, and I just wouldn't do right,
Right.
So that 15-year sentence, I did 5 years on it. And I got out, did the same thing again, got right back with the same people, and I ended up with a 30-year sentence. And I did 12 and a half years on that sentence, right?
Yeah.
Now, what was affecting me was me being irresponsible in the loss of my daughter, right? I was actually living in self-pity and self-blame.
Right.
And I held that in, and I tried to escape it with other means instead of just, coming to my senses and dealing with it and realize there's nothing that I can do to bring my daughter back,
Right.
And so I ended up getting a violation, and I went back and I stayed 4 more years and got out, did the same thing, and then got another violation when I did 5 years on that violation. But when I was in that jail, I was beginning to talk to God and tell him, why are you allowing this to happen to me? Because I never had 6 ounces of cocaine in my whole life, right?
Right.
But it was put on me and built a false charge against me, and therefore I had to take the 5 years in order for them to prevent enhancing me and sentencing me as a career criminal, which would have started my time at 25 to life.
Oh, wow.
But at that time, when it just like a little voice just said, came and spoke to me and said, hey, Sonia wasn't your daughter. She was just on loan to you. She belongs to me, right? And at that moment, it's like a burden was released from me. You know, I felt real lightheaded, you know, even though I was going to prison, back to prison, but there was no guilt there.
Right.
You know, I just went on back and did my time. And it was in that particular sentence is where I met Jeremy at. You know, so that's my prison history right there.
The short version.
Yes. Yes. Instead of going into all the details of the sentence and the crimes and all that stuff, because that would be a short book, you know.
I hope you're in the process of writing one.
Yeah, I could. I've been told that my life could actually be a book, you know. But still, in all, not like most of the offenders that are in prison, I had family support. My sister Dorothy was always there, you know. No matter where they sent me, the distance didn't matter. She would always come and pop up, and that said a lot. It made me feel, you know, that I wasn't alone, you know.
Which is one of those things that's needed when incarcerated.
Yes, most definitely it is.
Because outside of being removed from those that you know as family, depending on the type of sentencing that you have, the type of time or stay, you could also be removed from prison population. So now you're disconnected from the family that you know, family and friends that you know, but also disconnected from those who potentially could become new family and friends.
Yes.
So your sister being able to do that, you know, to maintain that connection, that's a big deal. And when we share things, when those of us who do share on social media, when we share things about connecting with someone who is incarcerated, especially those who are wrongfully incarcerated, to reach out to them just to say hi, or just it's not asking for a handout. It's just asking to connect with another human being, to let them know that this connection is still there. You can't physically go there and hang out and chit chat, but you can send a kind word, and that's all that they're asking for. So when you met Jeremy on this last time, well, that particular time.
Yes.
When you met Jeremy, you got that word that, you know, be still and know.
Well, Jeremy was a great inspiration to me because he was different and very unique from all the majority of the young people in there, you know, and he associated with people that he could learn from. You know, I mean, he didn't make himself feel like he was better than anyone,
Right.
but he just was more connected with the positive people that's in there, because it's more negativism in prison than positive people
Right.
that's in there. So, and I would pay attention to him, observe him, before we actually connected, because prison is his own world. You
Right.
know, some people you could speak to them, and then they'll say, "Man, why are you speaking to me?" So you really have to be careful. But that wasn't with Jeremy, though. I mean, every time he would pass by my cubicle, he would speak to me, and I would speak back. And later we would start engaging in conversations, and it was actually through him that inspired me to go back to college to work on my bachelor's degree, because he was in college for that, and I was at the point to where that I had got too old for school, you know.
Right.
But he convinced me, and we both took some of the same classes. But I never did get to finish the my bachelor's because I finally made parole and came home, and that was in May 12th of 16.
Okay.
Yeah, that. But Jeremy has an extensive vocabulary, because I asked him how did he get all those words in his vocabulary. And it's funny. It's funny what he told me. He said that each morning he would get the dictionary and he would just open it up and he would pick a word, right? And he'd write it down on a piece of paper and he would learn how to spell it, and then he would put it on his wall, right?
Right.
And throughout that day, he would use that word in his conversation. And that was, then the next day he would do the same thing like that. That was his system and how he built his vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we attended some of the same religious settings, and I would sit in on the class that he taught called the Toastmasters.
Yes.
And one thing led from there, and we became very close friends. When I got out, we still had that connection. He calls me regularly. And so that's basically how I met Jeremy. And later, I adopted him as my son. I called him my adopted son.
Right.
And he called me Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and this is what I'm talking about with the type of incarceration where you have the potential to have new family and friends, and family isn't always the blood relative that you came into this world and were told about. Your relatives. Your family can extend to those that you have formed a bond with, and you two clearly did that. Going back, thinking back, if I think back correctly, Jeremy's dad wasn't around when he was growing up.
No.
So you two forming that connection for him to be able to refer to you as a father, as a father figure, as dad, that's a big deal. And I can just imagine that would be a big deal for him. So, and for you, that would also be a big deal because you lost a child.
Yes.
Now, Jeremy is no daughter, but and a man and his daughter have a special bond. But still, you lost a child and you gained another.
Yeah. But I have another daughter and 3 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren now.
Nice.
Yeah, nice family.
Yeah, nice.
Yes.
So, here you are with Jeremy, and he's while interacting with him, he inspired you to start doing a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't get to finish that. However, what else did you see of Jeremy while you were in there? What
I,
else was
I saw
impressive to you?
how how he had a way with people. You know, he the people would guys would actually. I mean, it's like him having a great influence over so many. Which I had never seen that in prison. I mean, I've seen it, but not in a positive way.
Mm.
Whereas with Jeremy, as I said, there's more negative stuff in there than positive.
Right.
But Jeremy, he had a great influence over so many, which I had never seen before. And when he would speak, or the words gets out that he's speaking at an event or something, then there's a whole lot of people, a lot of men would attend, because with Jeremy wasn't telling you anything that could to make you laugh. You know, he was going to tell you something to make you think, to make you actually look at yourself and
Right.
begin to want to change your own conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And take part in some of the activities that the prison system offered, so that when you leave there, you have something to utilize once you're out there, and
Right.
free again. Because he taught different classes there. But the one that inspired me was about that Toastmasters class that he taught, because he had about 21 guys that attended that, and he did it like every Saturday from 6 to 8. You know, he got so popular until the warden, we had a warden Mousberger over there at the Ramsey 1 unit, and
Mm-hmm.
he became jealous of Justin because it is a small unit, and word gets about, and there's snitches, and the snitches go back and tell the warden what he's doing. So the warden, he got angry at him and had him locked up. But that was just out of his anger, because he hadn't did anything, couldn't give him no disciplinary for it. So he just kept him back in there for a few days. And then he came up on the dorm where Jeremy resided with us and told us that there wasn't but one leader on this prison system, and it was him, you know. So you can just
Ah.
imagine from that how great an impact that Jeremy has on people,
No, I get it.
you know.
I was wondering what that locking up was all about.
Yes.
It was when I think I can equate that to the stories of slavery, pretty much.
Oh,
Whereas
yes.
the slave master would, that slave that had the most influence on the plantation would pretty much break them, so that he would be the only one with the pull, the one that everybody would want to go to. Either he's going to break that slave by bringing them into the house, or break them by just beating them into submission.
Hmm.
So this warden, and I can see where there could be some jealousy, and the thought of an uprising inside the prison, if there's someone in the prison system who someone who is incarcerated, who is wielding this kind of pull. So, but that's I could go on and say that is because of an inferiority complex on the part of the warden, why he would choose to do something like that
Yeah.
versus to encourage it and then form a relationship himself with Jeremy. When so what was Jeremy like when, after a few days of getting locked up and then coming back out into general population? What was his demeanor like? Did that break him any? Did that change him any?
No, it didn't. It didn't change him, and then he got right back involved into his classes, and uh, continued teaching. Got back in
Nice.
school. Yeah, It was just a little setback for a few days, you know, but it wasn't nothing that put in the fear in him to where him to want to just shut down what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, with Jeremy doing these things, when he told you about what he was in for, how did that story go, and what was your feeling as you were being given this bit of information?
That was, it's like, I mean, it took a toll on me, and in my mind, I can just imagine him and his fiance and his daughter is going to celebrate her birthday, then being pulled over by the police, right? And the police comes back with his gun drawn and tell you that you're wanted for murder.
Right.
And prior to that, you had been down to the city paying traffic tickets, right? And when you pay traffic tickets, they do an overall check on you to see if you have any outstanding warrants.
Right.
And during that time, I think the murder had already had been committed. You know, so therefore he should not have had no warrant for it. But for him to be arrested for that, I mean, that was actually unbelievable. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
go on.
And to digest that, you know, when you look at the system back in the 90s, that was during the time of what they called lock them up and throw away the key.
Right.
So based on my experience, what I can see what they did is to justify that by them not having the actual person that committed the murder, then they get some false witnesses to say that this and that about Jeremy and charge him with it.
Right.
You know, which is completely wrong.
To you, did Jeremy, when you first met Jeremy, did he seem like the kind of person that could have committed such a crime?
No. If you never would have asked him, or if he never would have volunteered the information, you would have never even known that he was in there for murder. Because he doesn't carry himself like that. You know, his character is totally different, you know.
Right.
Yeah, he's you know, he's very understanding, you know. He just has a true nature about him, you know, and he demonstrates it through his character. You know, even Jeremy even he's always trying to do good, and he'll do good to his enemies. He doesn't. People get angry at him, right? And he's not one of those that want to fight fire with fire. You know, he'll figure out another way to where he can get that resolved without becoming physical. You know, that's just part of his character and his morale, his value system.
But
you know,
it could be argued that that is something that he developed while locked up. You don't think that is something that he developed after being locked up and he changed his ways?
By him not going into prison and letting the prison time do him. Instead, Jeremy reversed it and he did the time. Right? And what I mean by that is he took advantage of all the educational programs and college that were offered. And that learning and those skills that he achieved is what made him into the person that he is now. You know, because I think Jeremy only had an 8th grade education when he went to prison. Then he got associate degrees, a bachelor's in sociology and a master's in behavior science.
Right.
All that while he's been in prison. So yeah, that.
And this is what I'm saying. Could it have been that it is because of his incarceration that he is the person that you describe him as, the one
Yeah,
to find a better solution than to just go off fighting fire with fire?
yeah, that's it. I think the prison reform.
So
See,
so then some could possibly argue that, before going into prison, he was the kind of person that could have committed a murder like that.
well, it would be hard to believe. I
Mm.
mean, he would have to be very good at concealing that. Yeah,
And
because
go ahead.
because his attitude doesn't project that.
Yeah.
That prison is like this. Some people are prison made, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some aren't. You know, and those that are prison made, those are the hardcore ones. You know, they rebel against everything that the system offers. Even for his jobs, they give them a job and they won't go to work. you know, they're just totally rebellious, but not Jeremy. See, now Jeremy took advantage of it and did his time.
Right.
He didn't sit around and play dominoes all day or watch soap operas like Young and the Restless.
Right.
That one. He played chess and scramble, but those are thinking games.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played those. But now,
And I asked you that question because there are some that would argue that you can look at him now and say, okay, this is who he is now, but that wasn't who he was why he ended up getting into prison in the first place.
yeah,
So, and I asked you that because he wasn't someone that you knew from before he got into prison. You met him in prison,
in prison.
and so your opinion of him you developed as you got to know him while there. And
Yes.
it is based on that why I ask if the person that you met and you got to know, if you think if it is a person that who he became that way while in prison, or you think that is something that was a part of him found as at a foundational level, and then he just honed in on it while in prison. So that was why I asked you that.
Oh, okay, okay. No, I didn't see that in him.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
Before we go on any further, I do want to give those tuned in an opportunity. If you want to call in and share a word, you can do so. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839 is the number that you can call. You can text, you can WhatsApp, um, and you can speak with myself and you can speak with Alim on this matter of both Jeremy Busby and criminal justice reform. It's kind of a combination show. And for those who are locked in on Facebook Live, this is where I bid you farewell. Jump on over to kevinstew.com and join us there. Continue as we continue our dialogue, Alim Rahim and I. And call somebody, invite somebody, tell them to come on in. Because these are the type of discussions that you don't often have. You might come across someone on the street. Well, not that we're really talking to people on the street anymore. But we'd come across someone in passing and have a little 2-minute conversation. But this is something a little bit more. We're hearing from Alim Rahim, who was incarcerated himself. And in his case, it wasn't that he didn't do anything wrong. He did. And he did his time. But he didn't let that define him either. And we're going to learn some more about Alim. And we're going to learn some more about Jeremy Busby, a man whom he has taken onto his own family. He has been calling him his adopted son since meeting him and forming this relationship, and since being released from incarceration. So join us, let's keep the conversation, let's keep the dialogue going, because we're not conning anybody. We're gonna keep the dialogue going. You can call in, you can text in, you can jump in the stew pot on kevinstew.com. Others would call it a chat room, but because we're fancy over here on kevinstew.com, we call it a chat room, and it's a judgment-free zone. Please feel welcome. Feel free to comment. We just ask that you keep it clean. And again, share the word with someone. Big ups again to those on locked in on Reggae Global Radio. I hope you got the number 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Facebook Live, deuces to you. All right, Alim.
Yes.
So, you got out. What did you start doing?
Oh, when I got out May the 12th of 16. And here you have to report to your parole officer.
All right.
So while I was at the parole office, I was talking with this guy, and I said, man, I got to get a job, and he said, I know a guy that hires felons. So when he called that guy, and the guy came to the parole office, right, spoke with my parole officer, and gave me a job, So what he does, he cleans parking lots for Walmarts.
Right.
Right. So I had 3 stores that I cleaned, and I worked for him 2 years, and then the company I work for now does the same thing, but it has a lot better benefits than the previous job. So for 5 years that I've been out, I've been working consistently. I bought me a truck, got me a townhouse.
Nice.
Okay, and then I've got A1 credit. So I've done all of that since I've been out. And the key to that is when you come to the realization that there's got to be a change, there's got to be a better life, than being told what to do, when to eat, when to shower, being yelled at, walking down the hallway and all that. And then plus I was growing older too,
right.
So all that played a factor in me making this change. And besides too, then I wanted to establish a relationship with my daughter and my grandkids and my great grandkids.
Right.
So, and I couldn't do all that by keep going in and out of prison, and finally you will be abandoned by your family because they'll give up on you.
Right.
So that's what I've been doing, Mr. Stu, since I've gotten out. And I'm really enjoying my freedom. Yeah, I can cook my own food. Don't have to go to the store when I want to. I don't have to wait till the commissary, my day to go to commissary. It's a lot of benefits out here that you don't really think about when you're in the crime life.
Right.
Because when you're doing crime, actually, the thought of getting caught is not really in your vocabulary. No, you don't think like that. But you do get caught, and then you have to do the time. And I was tired of doing time.
What was it like when, or what is it like when people are talking about you or talking to you and they're calling you ex-con, they're calling you felon? How does that affect you negatively any?
Well, actually, I haven't encountered that. But
Nice.
the most people that I would volunteer that information to,
Yes.
right? They don't believe it. Yeah. they don't they don't believe it. I remember it was like I dated this one young lady, and with my personality and character and all, she just didn't believe it. So I had to get a copy of my offense record to show her
Wow.
that I had actually been in the prison. And my fiance now,
Mm-hmm.
I told it to her, and I didn't have to show any proof, but she knows because I have to go report to my parole officer. But first, being called a felon, ex-con, no.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-uh.
Nice. Well,
Yeah. But I wouldn't really let it affect me, because I learned something in there. If I didn't learn but one thing, I learned this, that I don't want to go back.
right.
Yeah.
And the thing about getting jail time, getting prison time, a lot of times people think of it as you did the worst of the worst. You killed somebody. You beat up somebody to near death. It was either death or near death or drugs. And the way how it is sensationalized on TV.
Yeah.
How so having have gone to prison, it has to be one of these things where you come out and either you're hard or it's one extreme or the other. You're hard or you're straight laced. Nobody really looks at you and think of you as quote unquote normal.
Mm. Now Mr. Stu, there are some men in there that are hard.
Yeah. No, we
I
get
mean,
that.
yeah. And then you have some, like I said earlier, that you have those that are not prison made.
Mm-hmm.
They get just caught up in
Right.
the crime life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard guys be in a fight and they be calling for their mom,
Mm.
So, yeah, that actually goes on in there.
Right.
But coming out hard, right? Those, to me, I wouldn't think would last very long out here, because in prison, all you have to, as a weapon, is your fist,
Mm-hmm.
and you might whoop the smaller guy. But out here, you can't bring that attitude from prison out into the free society,
Right.
because out here people carry guns.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they carry guns. See,
Especially in Texas.
yes, especially. I mean, yes. So the tough person don't last that long coming out with that type of attitude, especially going back into the old neighborhood that they left out of.
Right, right.
Yeah, with that kind of attitude, no.
Now, with when you look at the system as you know it, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
The as you know it, the prison system. When you look at that, and Jeremy isn't the only one in his case that you have met, is he?
Yes.
He is.
Yes.
Oh, I'm a little bit more fortunate than you. I don't know if I can call it fortunate. I,
Yeah.
I have met a few others who are wrongfully incarcerated.
No, I didn't meet any of all those that they said they did that crime.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So Jeremy said he didn't do the crime, and looking at what he had, the documentation that he had, did you get a chance to see any of that? Did he share any of that with you?
No, we talked about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, when he said that in
mm,
his case that there was no physical evidence to tie him to the murder,
right.
you know, yeah.
So, when you hear things like that and you look at the system that you did the crime and they had evidence of you doing the crime, so they gave you X amount of time, you were allowed to only do Y, and whichever way it worked out, you got out and you don't see yourself going back.
Right.
This is the same system that has Jeremy in. This is the same system that has manipulated information to give him 75 years. It's 75 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you think that it's a system that works the way it is supposed to work? Or do you see that a system that really needs reform?
There's a system that needs reform. Actually, it has changed a lot since Jeremy's conviction.
Mm-hmm. How
But
so?
see, as you know, that Texas itself I call it a set behind state, because when the slaves were free, Texas kept their slaves in slavery for 2 more years
Right.
after all the other states had freed their slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And the prison system, to me, is just another form of slavery. You know, they worked, say, for in Jeremy's case, excuse me, he's been there 23 years, and if he was released tomorrow, they're going to give him $100.
Mm.
They're going to give him $50 and a bus ticket at Huntsville, and when he go to report to his parole officer, they're going to give him another $50. So here's a guy been locked up 23 years, and you give him freedom, and you only give him $100. Now,
Mm.
bear in mind, before that, they were giving out $200, but we had a excuse me, a state senator, a U.S. senator, and Kay Bailey Hutchison. She said $200, that's too much money for me. So they cut it to $100. And also what she did too is she said if the prisoners, if their children can pay for their education, then the prisoners can too.
Mm.
So she took out all the Pell Grants that you could get. You could get, you could take 5 college courses, and those were grants that you didn't have to pay back. So far as the education went,
Right.
that part of reform went out went out in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they came along with the get tough on crime, and that's what I always tell Jeremy. He fell in that area when they were getting tough on crime, and they were just, you know, locking people up and bringing false charges to them and putting them away, giving them long sentences. But that backfired on them because the prison system became overcrowded.
Right.
Yes, it did. And when you're talking about reform, we had a governor, Ann Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what she did, she put in a lot of facilities, what they call Safe P. She put a lot of them in the prison system for people that had drug problems, right? That needed some sort of treatment. And that's what she was sending them to instead of sending them to prison,
Mm.
right? But that next election time, she lost. She was a Democrat, and Bush, who later became president, became governor. When he became governor, he shut down all of those facilities that was there for reform for drug addicts. He closed all those out and made state jail facilities out of them, which the person committed say a felony charge that wasn't prison time, they would send them to that state jail and the minimum was 6 months and the maximum was 2 years that you could stay in there. So that's where the reform went. One was for reform and one was against it.
Right.
And that's the area that Jeremy got caught up in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah, it is.
So looking at the system in and of itself, though, how it worked with you and how it works against Jeremy. And when I say with you, I mean you did some criminal, you participated in criminal activities which earned you a certain amount of time, but you had the opportunity to do less than that amount of time.
Yeah. Well, one of my crimes, the one that I'm still doing the time on now, is I was given 30 years for it.
Right.
And right now, if a person commits that crime now, they would only get 6 months in a state jail facility.
Say what now?
Yeah. I said the crime that I'm doing now, because see, you got it back in mind, I'm talking about the 90s now, how that 90 area was. It was get tough on crime.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter what the crime was, it was the sentencing phase that they were going to sentence you for, the amount of time that they give you for that crime. See, back then I had a unauthorized use of a motor vehicle.
Right.
Right. And so they gave me 10 years for that unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Now that same charge in 2020 is only 6 months in the state jail.
So
now you see how the era changed? How it changed because the get tough on crime law didn't work. All it did was overcrowd the prison system.
So those who are currently doing time for acts that today warrant a much lesser sentence.
Yes.
Don't they get let out for time served?
No, they have to make parole. Yeah, in Texas, you have to make parole.
I'm kind of biting my tongue because this is as bass awkward as you can get. And I intentionally put those words the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's crazy. And I don't know if it is a color thing, but given that the fact of, have you always lived in Texas your whole life?
No. I lived in my younger days, I lived in Ohio, 3 cities in Ohio, and I lived in Detroit, Michigan. But I was very young then. I think I was under 20 years old. I came to Texas, I think, when I was probably about 18 or so.
Okay.
19. Yeah.
So your whole adult life, you've been in Texas.
Yeah.
So you've seen some things.
Oh, yes.
So when you call Texas the backward state, you have the experience of Texas being backward. You've lived it.
Yeah, especially living in other states too, to see
Right.
even as young as I was, I could see a difference when I came to Texas.
Now,
Just by how Texas is far behind
mm,
further the cities that are in the north, you know.
now, the very first person that I spoke to, as it relates to wrongful incarceration, is a gentleman by the name of Richard Miles,
Hmm.
and Richard was wrongfully incarcerated as a 19-year-old, I believe, and he got pretty much just picked up on the street, and he did time for murder.
Mm.
Fortunately for him, he was released, and it was acknowledged that he was wrongfully incarcerated. And he started a foundation called Miles of Freedom, which operates out of Houston.
Yeah.
And so he continues to work with those who have been in the system and those who are in the system, and those who are about to transition out. So he is still very much involved, but from the other side, based on his experience.
Mm.
So with talking to you, who said, well, yeah, I did the crime, I'm doing the time, because you're out on parole, so you there are still some restrictions with
Oh
which
yeah.
you. So what are some of the things that you cannot do?
Now it was. Let me back up a little bit and tell you they have these monitors,
Mm-hmm.
and that was placed on my ankle
Right.
when I got released, and I had another little thing look like a beeper that I had to put on my side.
Right.
So both of those had to be on my person when I would go out. Now I had a curfew.
Mm-hmm.
I could, but I used it for work. I could leave home at 9 o'clock at night, and I'd have to be back home by 11 o'clock the next day.
Okay.
But if not, then that beeper is going to go off because it's set at the main office in Huntsville. Now that was the main restriction that I had. And I had to wear that thing for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever I wanted to go, when I went to report every week, they would have to write out a schedule for me. And I can't deviate from that schedule, because if I deviate from it, then that would be a violation.
Mm.
And they could send me back to prison and say, and that was pretty much it. So all I have to do right now, since they took the monitor off of me, I just have to report every 3 months.
Okay.
My condition changed though, but after they took the monitor off, I had to go once a month. But now, since I've been out 5 years and hadn't had no violations or anything, so they consider me a model prisoner now. You know,
Mm.
uh,
So they still,
so
you're still being called a prisoner.
yeah, yeah. But the only thing different is that I don't have to go report every month. Now I go every 3 months, right? And eventually I may have to just go once a month. I mean, once a year, because I don't get out parole until May of 25. See,
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. Texas holds you, and if a person gets out on parole and they have, say, a 30-year sentence like me, and they stay out 5 years like I have, and then they get in some more trouble, and the 5 years that they've been out, they'll take that 5 years and tack it on to the 25, to me getting off in 25. Now I won't get off until 30, 2030. You
What?
see? Yeah.
If you get in trouble one time.
Yeah, if you get in, be serious enough for them, I mean, you get into one trouble one time, and if it's a prison sentence, right, where they can send you back to prison for it, then all that time that you've been out is going to be taken away from you and tacked on to your sentence. Yeah, so Texas has a hedge over you. You have to abide by their rules, or you could end back up, as we call the old plantation, being told when to get up, when to shower, when to go eat, what time to go to bed, and all that. So, yeah, I don't miss that.
A few months back, I spoke with someone by the name of Mataka Askari. And Tak told me about post-incarceration syndrome, where the things that you would experience in prison, where you're told when to do, what to do, how to do, what to eat, when you're eating. When he came out, it was very difficult to make decisions on his own, because that was his life, so to speak. Did you have any of that experience?
No.
Okay.
See, with being in prison, I was in prison, but I didn't let the prison do me. It's like Jeremy. I watched the news and I read any magazines or books that were informative, trying to keep abreast on what's happening out in society, because
Right.
I know things would be changed once I got out. So therefore, by me reading and keeping abreast of the things that's going on in the outside free world, that I wouldn't be so far behind. But prison you do bring home some of the prison habits. Like in there you have like one cup, and you carry that cup with you and you drink your coffee out of in the day room and all that, right?
Right.
So as a reminder to want to go back to that place, I brought that cup home with me. And I said it, and I tell my fiance, there's only one place that you can get a cup like this at, and that's Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So you don't want to go there to get one of these cups. And she said, well, why don't you throw it away? I said, no, that's my reminder, right?
Right.
Of where I've been, and yeah, it's constantly. I use it every day. I just use it to heat water in, though. Yeah, no drink out of it. I just heat water and throw it in the microwave, heat a cup of water up, make some coffee in my other container.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there?
And I didn't know that I developed PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome. I didn't realize I had that. And my daughter, Krista, she kept telling me that I had it. And so I finally went to see a psychiatrist. And I explained to her and let her know where I had been and all that, and how many years I had been in and out of prison. Right. And by me going through all the details, that's what she discovered that I had. So I have to take Zolax, I think, for that, for having that. But she said that people that have been in confinement for a long time, or even in the military or stuff like that, will come out with that.
Well, Right, and post-incarceration syndrome is pretty much just that. It is a form of PTSD. But as Mataka would describe it, he would go out for dinner with his fiancée, and she would ask, "Okay, what you having?" And it would be as difficult a decision to make because he was used to just being presented with whatever is on the menu. So for him, it was developing or redeveloping the sense of self where he could say, you know what, I choose to have this, that, or the other. So, and his default would be whatever you're having. Because the decision, that ability to make that decision became stressful. Going into the store and having choices and options of what to pick up has, it became a struggle. And that is when he looked into it some more, it was a real thing, post-incarceration syndrome, and so much so that he lobbied for it to be recognized. And they started, the Department of Health started to make adjustments for that and started to create courses that spoke to that. So with your daughter recognizing, what was some of the things that your daughter would tell you that you would do why she would say that you suffer from PTSD?
That's because it's like with my fiance is the one that watches me and tells me too that my daughter say, yeah, your daughter is right. Because if we go out to eat or if we getting ready to go somewhere to eat, and she said, well, are we going out to eat? Then I would say, yeah. So where you want to go? I never make that decision on my own. Say, okay, well, let's go to Chella's, let's go to Jalapeno, let's go to Freebirds, something like that. I always leave it up to her.
Right.
Yeah. There's some little things, though, that you don't really pay attention to, but they affect you.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I can identify with that.
Yep. You see,
it's even with clothes, too, because I have certain clothes, because in the prison, you only have 2 sets. In some units, you only have 1 set, and that's the one because you shower every day. But now I've got lots of clothes in my closet, but it seemed like I just got these one favorite pair of jeans and shirt that I want to wear. And then she said, my babe, you have more clothes in there than that,
Listen, I've never been incarcerated, and I get that too, so.
Yeah.
It's a guy thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I get it. And it's a real thing. And if it wasn't for Tak saying, because I caught it on a live that he did. I just came across it by accident, and I reached out to him, and we got to talking, and he came on and he talked about it. It's a real thing. And with you saying that Jeremy is one to not let the time do him, but he's doing the time. That is more powerful than it actually sounds. And I don't know if you recognize the kind of power that is in taking that perspective. But yeah, that is very powerful. That's something that most people don't think of. They would probably take it for granted that, all right, I'm incarcerated. This is the amount of time that I have to do. I'm just gonna have to do it. and whatever happens when I'm in here happens. Versus,
Yeah.
all right, this is the time that I have to do. Um, let me see what I can do while I'm here.
Well, see, that's Jeremy. That's what
Right.
Jeremy is doing since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's reached a great level of success in his life.
Right.
It's like Jeremy is his whole life is very inspiring and unique.
Well,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, and he's
Even his
still growing. I
accomplishments
mean,
in prison.
he's not just okay. He said, "I would reached this point, so I'm satisfied with where I'm at." But that's not with him. He's continuing to grow and develop each day.
Yeah.
He's always reaching out because I think he told me that he was teaching the COVID-19 class down there now.
Nice.
And I'm not sure about that PRIA. They got a program in there called PRIA. I think he was involved in that too. It's called Prison Rape Elimination
Mm.
Act. Yeah, it's involved in that too. But see, with Jeremy, that if there's any opportunity that he can get to get involved in something constructive that's going to make him think, and he could be able to help others too, you know, he's gonna do it because to me he's a people person.
Right.
You know, yeah.
But even that in and of itself is it's called what? Prayer prison.
Prison Rape Elimination Act. It's called PRIA.
Right, prayer.
Well, they teach about in that they teach about STDs. They teach about health, about cleanliness, and eating, and um, how to avoid situations where to prevent you from getting raped in the prison, and stuff like that.
That's a very real thing that is very seldom addressed on a real level.
Yeah.
People make fun of it, talking about, hey, don't drop the soap,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. But to address it on a very real level, I'm gonna ask if we could take a little time, if you don't mind. If you do, I'm fine with it. I understand. Um, to just address that a little bit.
Oh, well, see, that prayer, what what it does, it prevents one from raping another. But then you might have a guy in there with 3 life sentences, that's never getting out. So
Mm-hmm.
chances are he would take that chance. But someone with a little 10 years or so, because once you get charged with the charge, because you get a freeware charge now, and once before that, oh, well, he asked for it. He should have been a man and fought him off of it, and stuff like that. At one time, that's the way the system was, right? And I'm gonna say this, that I hate to say it, but there is prejudice in the prison when it was just happening to the blacks and the Hispanics. It wasn't no big deal about it. But when the court system start sending these little white kids down there,
Right.
they little rich white kids coming in there for drugs and all that. When they stop discriminating in Dallas County about
Right.
who they send, they begin to send in and everybody there.
Yeah.
Well, the mothers and those parents put pressure on the system, and they came up with that program. And so if a guy rapes another guy in there now, he'll be sentenced, and I'm not sure how much time they'll give him, but I do know he'll be registered as a sex offender and will be taken out of population for 10 years, for raping another person. See, so you'll be, when I mean take out of population, you're going to be put in solitary.
Right.
And where you only come out your cell 1 hour a
1 hour
day.
a day.
Yeah. 1 hour a day. So
And
that's what that prayer has cut down to the percentage of rape in the prison system.
you know, it I believe it's because I've been a quote unquote free man all my life. The thought of being raped like that is it's just it's a hard pill to swallow. And even how it would be on the books, because in Jamaica the law was a man cannot be raped, because rape was defined as the non-consensual act of a penis in a vagina.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
it was specific
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So it would be on the books in Jamaica as boogery or buggery.
Mm.
So for it to be here in the books on as law as rape, that in and of itself is a big deal. Wrapping the mind around the concept of doing something where, so you're out in the free world and you're so hardcore that you run in the streets and you're committing all these crimes and you think, yeah, I'm hard, I'm tough, and then you go to prison and get raped.
Yeah.
That in and of itself must be one of the most emotionally terrorizing things that could happen to an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Have you met people who have gone through that?
Yes, in prison, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say their personalities are like?
Well, they walk around with shame, and it does something to them. It traumatizes them,
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't never be their normal self, and because I had a friend. Well, it was a guy that I took some college classes with. We took sociologists together,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this guy. He called himself Maniac. Raped him in the shower,
Mm.
and he wouldn't fight back, and he was the son of a policeman and his mom was a school teacher. So he didn't grow up, in the neighborhood where you knew how to fight or anything like that,
Right.
So he just gave in and thinking about losing his life, but not his manhood, He'd rather just let his manhood go instead of losing his life. So that's what he told me, because I asked him how come he didn't fight,
Yeah.
And he said, and then when I would see him but not let him know that I'm walking behind him, and then when I get close up to him, I would call him. I would say, "Mantis," right there, and then it would startle him.
Mm.
He would immediately turn and put his back against the wall.
Right.
Yeah, that really traumatized him, and he was the only one that I had that encounter with that actually happened to.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That it's one of the realities of prison life,
Mm-hmm.
which it really makes you think, are we looking at this whole prison system in its entirety? What it does to an individual, especially when you have individuals who are being placed there for not doing anything. There is a young man out of Oklahoma, Julius Jones. He's on death row. There is, of course, Jeremy, 75 years for a crime he didn't commit. Right. Julius didn't commit the crime either that he is doing time for. He didn't even have proper representation. The system was so rigged.
Mm-hmm.
You have Rodney Reed right there in Texas. And it was the amount of corruption that is in and around the Rodney Reed case. It's crazy. And this is in Texas. You have pretty much first-hand knowledge of someone that you refer to as a son who is dealing with this. So when looking at the prison system, especially in a place like Texas, you really have to look at, is it operating the way it is supposed to?
Oh, no.
The first response is, oh, no.
Texas, it's the prison system itself is not really concerned about the prisoners. They're concerned about the money that they are making off of each prisoner.
Mm.
See, at one time, I don't know, it's probably been increased now, that one individual that were in I would say, good health, you know, it cost the taxpayers $14,000 a year, supposedly, to care for that prisoner.
What?
But for the food they feed you and the clothes they give you, you know, and wouldn't amount to no $14,000 a year. So you wonder, where does that money go? So if you got a prison system such as Texas with the amount, I think it had 105 prisoners, and at one time there was 135,000 prisoners housed in the Texas prison system. So if you would just say all of them were healthy and multiply 14,000 times 135,000 and see how much revenue that's going into that prison system per year. You see? So that's the way the system operates. And one more thing is that they have these, what I call state jail facilities too, that they have several of them, but they are like holding facilities. They can hold you on one of those for like 2 years before they send you off into the prison system.
Right.
See, the system is so crooked. There's another thing they do for the GED programs. When, see, TDC's physical year is September. So, say August, they would do a perfect attendance record for the GED classes, right? So they motivate the students to not miss a day for 30 days, right? And their reward was they would get to take a picture, you know, and some of them didn't have access to money, but where they would have paid $3, I think, and the only way you can get a picture if somebody came to see you and they took the picture in the visitation room.
Okay.
But if you attended the class for 30 days, right, you get a free picture, right? And so that generated more revenue for the GED class But then when they turn that in as a show, okay, this is what our record is. This is how many students that we got uh, attending attending class. So they'll get more money by that from doing that. You know, so the system itself, Kevin, is just centered around money, not anything else, just money.
Alim, this is that I didn't even know about that. I won't
You
even
know?
pretend like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Mm-mm. I knew nothing about that.
Oh yeah.
And
But see, I was there during that time. That's why I know. I know because I was one of the ones that got the perfect attendance, so I could get that picture. Yeah. Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
It's it's rough. It's rough hearing some of this. When I think
Mm-hmm.
about Jeremy going through some of these things, or being where he is exposed to some of these things unnecessarily.
Yes. And when you think about the way that he got there,
Yeah.
they had no physical evidence on his case. He met his attorney on the trial date.
Mm-hmm.
48 hours, he's going to trial, and he's got an all-white jury, 11 men. Then he got the jailhouse witnesses, 3 of them. But what get me about Jeremy's story is that Suzanne Johnson, whom the girl is actually Linda Ruddich, you know, they can't find her nowhere.
Right.
And then that attorney that he was a poor representation of it, you know. Yeah, so with all of that, you can see how he got railroaded. You know,
Oh
he
yeah.
didn't represent him at all. You know, matter of fact, I think Jeremy told me he got disbarred. You know, from even practicing law.
And rightly so.
Yeah,
Quite rightly
and
so.
I'm just praying that with all that should be enough for him to be granted a new trial. You know,
However, we don't see where that is the case. It doesn't look like that it's going anywhere near there.
yeah,
But we have to keep doing what we're doing and spreading the word, and we have to keep fighting, and we have to keep pushing, and we have to keep encouraging and sending in that hi Jeremy every now and then.
yeah,
Because these little things make a big difference. And we need to sign those petitions.
hmm,
We need to contact those state representatives. Because it's not just happening in Texas. Don't think because you're here, either here in Florida, or you're over in, I don't know, Colorado or Milwaukee or something, that you probably won't get it, you won't experience it there. You're immune. No. The system in the United States, if you don't have the same thing happening everywhere, you have bits and pieces of it happening everywhere. On a whole, it needs to be adjusted. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be reformed or broken down, whichever way you want to see it. But it needs attention. Here it is. We're talking with someone who is a part of that system on the receiving end. And it's not like he's saying, I didn't do anything to deserve this. recognizes that, hey, I did my thing.
Mm.
And it's not from a place of being bitter about doing what needs to be done to pay for the crime, so to speak. But it's the other things that are happening that he's calling attention to. And I thank you for doing that, Alim.
Yes.
I thank you for speaking up on behalf of Jeremy. We had the luxury of having Jeremy on the show himself. And I shouldn't even call it a show like that. You know, it's a broadcast.
Mm.
We had him here. We talked to him. He told us the story. But for those who are thinking that, you know, he's just looking for a platform to tell his story, here's someone who his life was changed as a result of Jeremy.
Right.
That speaks volumes. That goes to show the character that Jeremy is. Is that the character of a murderer? Or is that the character of someone who is trying to better life? And yes, some of the things that he is doing now, he's been able to do it as a result of being in prison. But that doesn't mean that he belongs in prison. It doesn't negate the fact that he is there wrongfully. So, not because he has benefited from being there, does it mean that it's a good thing? No, it's still not a good thing that he is there. It's still not a good thing that the system is so corrupt that someone who is totally innocent can end up on death row. Like a Julius Jones or a Rodney Reed. Or to those that have already passed on, Nathaniel Woods. These people are human beings too. Yes, there are some people in prison who have done some horrible things. And yeah, there are places like prisons that need to be there for people like that, because they don't mean society on a whole any good. But it doesn't mean that they cannot be reformed. And this is where I believe the money should be going, into programs that would help individuals who don't believe in what would others would consider to be a utopian society, where we all can live together and grow together and raise our children together. You know, having a little bit of a soapbox moment, and I'll hold it back I'll dial it back for a moment. Here's the reality. Alim Rahim was incarcerated. He did meet Jeremy Busby. They have fostered a relationship in such a way that here now is Jeremy, his son. And Jeremy gets to say, here is the man who I look at as a father. I am not in here for anything that I had actually done, but I am making the most of it being here. Jeremy is the first black staff writer for the prison system newspaper in Texas. And he continues to be a positive influence, not just to those who are incarcerated, but to us out here. Jeremy needs to go home, to come home. Jeremy should be out here. And to me, Jeremy is that person that the moment he is out, he'll take the opportunity to run around in the sun for a little bit and to love on his child and go right back to helping those incarcerated. That's who I get to see Jeremy as, based on what I have learned of him, and based on what I've even with talking with him, what I get from him. But right now the fight is to get him out. So the whole idea of hashtag join Jeremy 2020, I don't have it up on the screen right now, but it's not hard to remember. It's simple. Hashtag join Jeremy 2020. Let's bring him home. Let's get him out of this. 23 years for a crime he didn't commit. 23 years because of a system that allows for false imprisonment. 23 years for prosecuting attorneys wanting another notch. But that's only 23 years that he has already done. He has 75 in total. Something needs to be done. We need to address this. We need to be writing letters, signing petitions, raising our voices. And not just sitting back and going, boy, that's rough. That couldn't be me. Well, guess what? Yes, it could. Easily. Especially if you're a person of color. Alim, I want to thank you again for taking the time out to share with us tonight. Thank you for sharing of your stories and your experiences. Thank you for enlightening us a little bit more about Jeremy and his fight to freedom. But not only that, his fight to make those around him better. I thank you.
Yes. Thank you too. See, Jeremy has a very strong value system too. And it's actually based on changing opinions of what people or groups feel is important too.
Yes.
Yeah. He recognizes the weakness in others and try to educate them in a way to where they can pull the strength within them to master the task that's before them too. See, there's a lot of qualities that Jeremy has.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that he continue doing what he's doing, his growth, he will grow deeper and deeper and get more involved and one day get his freedom. That's what my deepest prayer is, that he be free and he can come home. You know, so we all get to keep praying that he be granted a new trial.
Yeah.
Which, as you said earlier, we got to get the petitions done and to follow Jeremy. You can follow Jeremy just join Jeremy on the Facebook group, or you can join Jeremy now on Twitter, or you can join Jeremy 2020 on Instagram. And those of you out there that wanted to write letters or send emails to the staff members there in Dallas, you can send an email for Jeremy requesting a new trial to the Dallas Mayor, Eric Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
That's Eric, ERIC.JOHNSON at cityhall.com. By the Mayor Pro Team, Adam Miranda, Adam, ADAM, MEDRANO at Dallas, DALLASCITY Hall, HALL.com. Or the Dallas County District Attorney, John Crusoe at Kimberly, KIMBERLEE .LEACH at Dallas, DALLASCOUNTY.org.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to write Jeremy personally, it's Jeremy Busby, JEREMYBUSBY, TDJ number 881193. That's Mark Stiles Unit, MARK Stiles, STILES Unit, UNIT, at 3060 FM 3514, Beaumont, Texas, at 7705. Or www.joinjeremy.org. Also, if you wanted to do a donation to help with funds in Jeremy's case, you can do a Cash App to Join 2020. That's JOIN 2020. And we appreciate any donations that you can donate towards Jeremy's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to send me an email, you can send me one at Rahim, RAHIM, ALIM 298 at gmail.com. And again, Kevin, I thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to come on and share my story, as well as Jeremy's too. Because as I've said, Jeremy had a great influence over so many people there in that prison system. And he most definitely is one that I know needs to be released from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
He's like just waiting. Everything that he had achieved, he just needs the opportunity to be able to manifest that in a free society.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Definitely do. And I miss him. And each day when he calls and we talk for hours.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So, Kevin,
Hey.
I look forward to another interview with you
Oh, yeah.
in the near future.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Definitely. We will talk.
All right.
Thank you, Alim.
Thank you,
Appreciate
too.
you. Appreciate
All
the
right.
fact that you could take the time out again.
Okay.
All the best to you. And give Jeremy my love, man.
I will. I'll probably hear from him tomorrow. Their phone's off now. They cut their phones off at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
You have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. Bye.
Let's go ahead and join Jeremy. Hashtag join Jeremy.
It is time for us to make peace and stop the fighting. One love, one unity, got to break the bondage. No more borders around me, no more mental slavery. But Marley said it best, stand together and feel alright. But if we fight, let it be for justice. And if we want,
This is the sound of China Nicole. The track is called Let It Be for Justice.
Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it no, I won't be silent. No more, no more barriers for we. We will thrive, prosperity. Marcus Garvey said it best, none but ourselves can free your minds. But if we fight,
let it be for justice.
and if we war,
Let it be for justice.
at all costs,
Let it be for justice.
do what is right.
Let it be for justice.
Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice.
Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice.
We the people are from royalty. Royalty. I wish so many of us can see. Keep the culture, be united, stop the violence. Put the power in ourselves, create the franchise. In the news last week, another bomb overseas. I'm so sick of these murders in the streets. Ooh,
Why I?
ooh,
Why I? Why I? Why I?
but if we fight,
Let it be for justice.
and if we war,
Let it be for justice.
at all costs,
Let it be for justice.
do what is right.
Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. 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 No matter what it costs, let it be for justice.
It seems to be that all elusive thing. This thing called justice.
Be for justice.
Doesn't have to be.
Be for justice.
We just have to do our part.
Let it be for justice. Let it
And you might think that what you do is not recognized, it's not seen, it's just you in your small corner, but even a candle will light the darkest room.
Yeah,
This is Nikki Blaze.
I see them love.
It's called Lost in Illusion.
Illusion. I see them love.
Oh yes, I see them.
Lost in delusion. And now they reside in the state of confusion. Why is it that my race remains poor? My race sitting on the jail floors. My race fighting to knock down doors. Same race they stole from across the shore. My race that built this great nation, still trapped on my plantation. I see them love.
Oh yes, I see them.
Lost in illusion.
Lost in illusion.
I see them love.
Oh yes, I see them.
Lost in delusion. And now they reside in a state of confusion. Rwanda, Haiti, down in Darfur, Jamaica, they're crying out for murder, hunger. Why can't we come together and help one another? It only takes but one to start a revolution. Please don't play into the illusion. Oh, I see them lost. Yeah, I see them lost. Oh, in a state of confusion. Wake up, wake up, wake up, yeah. Oh, I see them lost. I see them lost. I see them running, running, running. Oh, I see them running. Oh, my people lost. Oh, my people lost. Yeah, yeah. I wanna tell you to
call it tonight. I might not do that much of a musical therapy tonight. Just these 2 tracks.
Lost in delusion. Yeah.
Join me tomorrow. Same time, same place. KevinStew.com. One Harmony Radio. WGLRO. Pulse Media Group. ClintonLindsay.com, the Foundation Radio Network, and of course, Reggae Global Radio. Thank you. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world.
In a state of confusion, I see them love. Oh yes, I see them. Lost in illusion. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.